What if I told you, the more you chase something, the further it runs from you? You work tirelessly, you give it your all. You run after your dreams with unmatched passion. But no matter how hard you try, it keeps slipping through your fingers. Have you ever felt that way? Now imagine this. The moment you stop chasing, Tano is the moment it begins to flow effortlessly toward you. Like a magnet, if you forcefully pull, it resists. But when you release, the pull becomes natural. Suddenly, everything you need starts finding its way to you, without force, without strain. Not because you gave up, but because you surrendered. Picture a small plant in your garden. You water it obsessively, check it constantly, hovering over every leaf, every inch of growth. But the real magic? It happens when you give it space, when you trust the process, and step back. That's when it blooms. This is the quiet, unshakable power of surrender, of allowing life to unfold. Because when you're caught up in the chase, you're faced with a choice. Will you keep pushing and forcing things to happen? Or will you start trusting that what's meant for you is already making its way to you? Here's the paradox of manifestation. The moment you stop struggling, you start attracting. The energy shifts, the tension dissolves, and what you once chased now arrives, easily, naturally, and on time. So how do you manifest your desires without obsessing over the how and the when? How do you attract the life you dream of without stress, force, or control? Stay with me, because the next insight might just shift your entire approach to life. Step 1. Detach from the outcome. Let's talk about one of the most powerful mindset shifts you can make: detachment. It sounds simple, even passive. But in truth, it's one of the most potent tools for transformation. We're conditioned to fixate on results, getting the job, hitting the goal, finding the perfect partner. We believe that the harder we focus, the more control we gain. But here's the truth. The more you cling to the outcome, the more resistance you create. When you're obsessed with the finish line, you stop running with ease. You move with pressure, not power. Real progress flows from presence, from calm, inspired action, not from stress, not from desperation. When you focus solely on the result, you rob yourself of the present moment. You disconnect from the joy of creating, building, learning. Every step becomes a struggle. But what if you believed that your effort is already enough? That showing up fully and mindfully is the real win? Detachment isn't about not caring, it's about trusting. It's about doing your best and releasing the rest. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, do not seek things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens as it should, and you will be happy. Read that again. It's not about surrendering your dreams. It's about releasing your grip on control. Because when you stop trying to bend life to your will, you make space for something deeper. Clarity, peace, alignment. And that's when everything starts to flow your way. Let me tell you a story. Remember Lily, the friend who used to obsess over when things would finally fall into place. She was chasing a big milestone in her career, pouring her energy into every detail, every hour, every task. Day after day, she gave it her all. But, despite her relentless effort, nothing seemed to be moving fast enough. The progress was slow, the results felt out of reach. Frustration crept in, exhaustion followed. She began questioning herself. Am I doing something wrong? Why is nothing working even though I'm trying so hard? Until one day, a wise mentor said something that shifted everything. Give your best each day and let go of the rest. Detach from the outcome. It will come when it's meant to. At first, Lily resisted. It sounded counterintuitive, almost like giving up. But eventually she surrendered to the idea. She stopped obsessing over the when and how. And instead she focused on one thing: becoming the best version of herself today. That simple shift changed everything. Over time, the tension faded. Her energy became lighter, more aligned. And then, opportunities started flowing in. The right people appeared, the timing aligned. Things began to fall into place effortlessly. So how do you detach from the outcome like Lily did? Here are 3 powerful reminders. Focus on your actions. Give your all, yes, be consistent, absolutely. But don't let your joy depend on instant results. Your job is the effort. The outcome? That's not in your hands. Let go of perfection. Life unfolds with its own rhythm. Not everything will look exactly as you imagined, and that's okay. Trust that what happens, happens for a reason, even if it's not obvious at first. Stay grounded in the present. The future will unfold whether you stress about it or not, so choose presence, choose peace, and let life meet you halfway. Detaching doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to allow things to happen in their own time. When you do this, something magical unfolds. You stop chasing. And you start receiving. Step 2. Master your mindset. Now let's go deeper. Here's a powerful truth most people overlook. Your thoughts shape your reality. Every single day, your mind is flooded with distractions, doubts, fears, and expectations. But through all that noise, there's one thing you always have the power to control: your mindset. When your mind is calm, focused, and clear, you become a magnet for solutions. But when your mind is clouded by stress, worry, or negativity, you can miss what's right in front of you. Let's be honest, life isn't always gentle. There are moments that shake us, challenge us, frustrate us. But here's what separates those who rise from those who stay stuck. It's not the problem, it's the perspective. A centered mind doesn't pretend problems don't exist. It faces them, with clarity, with strength, with intention. And when your mindset is steady, you become more creative, more adaptable, more open to the possibilities all around you. You stop reacting out of fear, and you start responding with purpose. This is the mental shift that allows you to see doors where others see walls. And once again, Stoic wisdom reminds us of this eternal truth. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Let that sink in. Your joy doesn't come from what happens. It comes from what you make of it, from the meaning you choose to assign, from the thoughts you feed and nurture. When you master your thoughts, you master your perception. And when you master your perception, you begin to shape your reality from the inside out. If your mind is filled with fear, doubt, and what-ifs, it's like planting weeds in your garden. But if your mind is rooted in clarity, hope, and quiet determination, that's when growth becomes inevitable. That's when you begin to walk toward your dream, not in panic, but in peace. When you master your thoughts, you begin to master your path. But there's another layer of wisdom that completes this inner transformation. It's learning to trust timing. Because even with the right mindset, things don't always happen when we expect. And that's okay. There's a rhythm to life, a natural order. And sometimes the greatest growth is not in doing more, but in trusting more. This is where ancient Stoic wisdom gently reminds us. No great thing is created suddenly. Epictetus, let that sink in. The things that truly matter: deep love, lasting success, inner wisdom, meaningful impact. They don't bloom overnight. They require time. They demand patience. And most of all, they ask for your faith. You don't need to rush. You don't need to control every outcome. Just show up. Do what's right, and trust that what's meant for you is already making its way to you, because the truth is, life has a way of working things out, beautifully and unexpectedly, when we stop trying to force it all into place. Let me share a story that captures this perfectly. There was a friend of mine, we'll call her Sophie. Sophie was fiercely ambitious. She had big dreams and a vision for her future that burned like fire. But somewhere along the way, that fire turned into pressure. She started pushing too hard, working long hours, chasing every opportunity, forcing doors to open. But instead of progress, she hit wall after wall. The more she rushed, the more frustrated she became. Nothing flowed. Every almost turned into a not yet. Then one day something in her shifted. She stepped back. She stopped trying to make it happen by sheer force, and instead, she focused on becoming ready. She began learning again, sharpening her skills, connecting with people not for gain, but for growth. She started building quietly, patiently, without expectation, and something changed. Suddenly, the right doors opened. Opportunities began to appear, not through chasing, but through alignment. What once felt heavy now arrived. With surprising ease, that's when Sophie realized the truth. When you stop rushing, life starts flowing. When you trust the timing, you create space for the right things to find you. So how can you practice trusting in divine timing? Here are 3 truths to carry with you. Let go of control. Not everything is meant to happen right now. Trying to force life into your timeline only creates resistance. Surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Focus on growth, not outcome. Success doesn't come from grasping, it comes from becoming. When you invest in yourself, life invests back in you. Be patient. Trust that the waiting season is still working in your favor. Some things need time to align behind the scenes before they arrive. The right things always come at the right time, and not a moment sooner. At its core, trusting divine timing is a radical act of faith. It's saying, I don't need to know how or when, only that it will come when I'm ready. When you stop rushing the process starts working for you. Step 4, act with purpose, not desperation. Now, let's talk about a subtle but powerful shift in energy. The difference between acting with purpose and acting from desperation. Have you ever felt like you're running out of time? Like success is just beyond reach and you have to scramble to catch it? In those moments, it's easy to act from a place of panic. You push harder, chase faster. You make moves out of fear, out of lack, out of, what if I fail? But here's the truth. Desperation repels success. When you act from fear, you don't create alignment. You create chaos. You attract more confusion, more pressure, more resistance. But when you act with calm, grounded purpose, something shifts. Your energy becomes steady. Your intentions become clear, and the results begin to reflect that clarity. Success doesn't come from frantic movement. It comes from focused, intentional steps in the right direction. Not rushed, not reactive, just aligned. The world responds to your energy. When you show up in peace, you open doors that panic would slam shut. Once you stop chasing in desperation and start moving with intention, everything changes. Because success doesn't just come from movement, it comes from purposeful movement, from clarity, from knowing where you're going and why. It's not about being the fastest. It's not about outworking or out-hustling everyone else. It's about moving with conviction, with quiet confidence, with the kind of calm that says, I know who I am and I know where I'm headed. And you know what? People can feel that. They're drawn to it. Purpose is magnetic. When you act with calm, grounded intention, you radiate strength. But when you act out of fear or urgency, the energy shifts. Desperation always leaves a trace. It seeps through your words, your tone, your decisions, and others can sense it, whether they realize it or not. It's the difference between trusting the process and trying to force your way forward. This is where the wisdom of the Stoics echoes loud and clear. Epictetus said, First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That single sentence holds incredible power. Before you take action, get still. Ask yourself, who do I want to become? What do I truly value? What kind of impact do I want to leave behind? Because once you're clear on that, on the who and the why, the how begins to unfold naturally. Your actions align, your confidence grows, and you no longer move in fear, but in faith. Let me tell you about a man named Jack. Jack was ambitious, no doubt, but he was also stuck. He spent years chasing opportunities, jumping from one path to another, hoping something would finally click. He networked non-stop. He sent out resumes like candy. He showed up everywhere, yet nowhere felt right. Why? Because deep down, he wasn't moving from purpose. He was moving from panic, from the fear of being left behind, from the pressure to make it before time ran out. One day, Jack paused. He asked himself a question no one had ever asked him before. What kind of man do I actually want to become? And that question changed everything. He realized he had never truly defined his values, his vision, his purpose. So he did the inner work. He clarified his goals, not based on status or money, but on meaning. He started taking consistent, intentional steps that reflected who he was becoming, not just what he was chasing. And then something shifted. Opportunities started flowing his way, not because he chased harder, but because he showed up clearer, stronger and more aligned. Success came, not as a reward for desperation, but as a response to authenticity. So how do you start acting with purpose instead of panic? Here are 3 grounded steps. Joy. Get clear on who you want to be. Take a moment to define your core values. What do you stand for? What truly matters to you? Trust the process. Not everything happens overnight. Progress is found in the steady, quiet steps. Focus on moving forward, one intentional action at a time. Move with quiet confidence. You don't need to shout. You don't need to sprint. When you're aligned, your presence speaks louder than your words. At the end of the day, purposeful action is the foundation of lasting success. When you move with clear intention and grounded belief, you create space for the right things to find you, naturally and in perfect timing. So remember, move with purpose, not desperation, and just watch. Everything will begin to align in your favor. If you've made it this far, thank you. Leave a comment with "Thank God" if this message resonated with you. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It fuels our journey forward and helps more people find the peace and power they're searching for. Stay inspired. Stay grounded. We're just getting started. Once you begin moving with purpose instead of panic, a new kind of peace begins to unfold. But to truly live in that peace, there's something else you must be willing to do. And it's one of the most powerful and challenging lessons of all. Let go of control. In a world where we're constantly told to take charge, make things happen, or stay on top of everything, the idea of letting go can feel almost wrong. But here's the paradox. The more you try to control everything around you, other people, the future, outcomes, even your own timing, the more anxious, drained, and frustrated you become, because control is an illusion. And clinging to it only weighs you down. Think about it. You can't control the weather. You can't control how others think or act. You can't predict every twist life will throw your way. But you can control something far more powerful. Yourself, your thoughts, your energy, your responses. That's where real freedom lives. Let's bring in the voice of Epictetus again, who once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." What if you stopped trying to manage every detail and started focusing only on the things within your reach? What if you stopped spinning in worry about how others perceive you, or what might go wrong next week? and brought all that energy back to your breath, your next step, your present moment. Let me share the story of Anna. Anna was a deeply thoughtful woman, but her thoughts were constantly wrapped in anxiety. She worried about what others thought of her. She overanalyzed her choices. She stressed over her career path, the economy, the future, everything outside her control, and the more she worried, the more stuck she felt. She was paralyzed by the fear of not doing enough, of not having it all figured out, until one day she paused and asked herself a different question. What can I actually control right now? That question changed everything. She started small, breathing deeper, being more intentional with her mornings, choosing her reactions when things didn't go as planned, letting go of how others responded, and focusing on how she showed up. And slowly something beautiful happened. Her anxiety softened. Her confidence returned. Opportunities she once tried to force began showing up effortlessly. Not because the world changed, but because she did. So how can you begin to let go of control? Here are 3 powerful practices. 1. Focus only on what's truly within your control. That includes your mindset, your choices, and your presence. Redirect your energy there, where it matters most. 2. Release the need for everything to go according to plan. Life rarely unfolds exactly how we imagined, but that doesn't mean it isn't working in your favor. Trust that detours can lead to better destinations. 3. Embrace the unknown. The future is not meant to be controlled, it's meant to be discovered. And there's something freeing in saying, I don't have to know everything, I just have to keep showing up. At the end of the day, letting go of control is not giving up. It's choosing peace over pressure. It's stepping into your strength by focusing it inward. When you stop trying to control the ocean, you finally learn how to ride the waves. When you release the need to control, you create space for something even greater. Peace, presence, and flow. And as you open that space, there's a deeper shift waiting to happen. A shift that has the power to change not just your mindset, but your entire reality. Let's talk about it. Embodying the energy of abundance. We live in a world that constantly tells us we're behind, that we need more money, more status, more validation. So we chase, we grind, we strive to fill an invisible void, always feeling like we're one step away from enough. But here's the truth. The more you chase what you think you lack, the more lack you create. Scarcity is a mindset, and it shows up in your actions, your energy, your choices. Now imagine this. What if instead of chasing what's missing, you lived as if you already had it? What if you walked through life with the energy of someone who was already whole, already fulfilled, already abundant? This is not about pretending or faking. It's about aligning your energy with the version of yourself that already believes, I have enough, I am enough, I live in abundance. That shift changes everything, because when you act from abundance, you stop moving in desperation. You start making decisions rooted in confidence, not fear. You see opportunities instead of problems. You speak with conviction instead of doubt, and the world responds to that energy. Let's turn to some timeless Stoic wisdom from Epictetus. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Think about that. True wealth isn't measured by what's in your bank account or what's parked in your driveway. It's measured by your inner state, by how little you need to feel at peace, by how full your heart feels even before the next big thing arrives. And the beauty of that? You can choose it now, right here today, because abundance is not something you wait for, it's something you embody. Let me tell you about James. James was ambitious, driven, always chasing the next milestone, the next promotion, the next financial target, the next big win. He had a belief deep in his mind. I'll finally feel fulfilled when I reach that goal. But every time he got close, the finish line moved, and so did his peace of mind. Until one day, James made a radical decision. He stopped chasing, not because he didn't care anymore, but because he wanted to live differently. He decided to live as if he already had everything he needed. He began each day with gratitude, genuinely acknowledging what was already working in his life. His health, his relationships, his skills, his peace. And slowly, something incredible happened. The pressure lifted. Opportunities started flowing, not because he was chasing harder, but because he was showing up from a place of enoughness. He became magnetic. People wanted to work with him. Ideas came more clearly. Success followed, not because he demanded it, but because he embodied it. So how can you start living in the energy of abundance? Here's how. 1. Practice gratitude daily. Not just for the big wins, but for the little things. A warm meal, a kind word, the fact that you woke up today. 2. Stop defining yourself by what you lack. Shift your focus to what's already available. Your talents, your experiences, your inner growth. 3. Act from fullness, not from fear. Before you send that message, chase that opportunity, or make that decision, ask yourself, am I doing this because I believe I already am enough, or because I think I need this to become enough? At the end of the day, abundance isn't something you wait to achieve. It's something you choose to live. When you embody that energy, calm, confident, grateful, the world mirrors it back to you in ways you never imagined. Live like you already have it. And life will begin showing up to match your energy. When you begin living from a place of abundance, something powerful happens. You no longer move with fear. You move with faith. You stop chasing, and you start attracting. But even when you're in that energy, there's one more shift that completes the process. Aligned action, followed by letting go. Let's dive into one of the most liberating and effective ways to move forward in life. Take action that's aligned with your purpose, and then release the outcome. Sounds simple, right? But in practice, this is where most people get stuck. We live in a world that celebrates hustle, pressure, urgency. We're taught that if we just work harder, stress more, force the outcome, success will come faster. But here's the truth. When you try to force life, you actually create resistance. The more you cling to how and when things should unfold, the more tension and frustration you invite into the process. The key isn't to stop taking action. The key is to take aligned action, rooted in clarity, purpose, and authenticity, and then release the timeline. Let go of the need for instant validation, because what's meant for you doesn't need to be chased. It will come, in its own time, in its own way. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on some timeless Stoic wisdom from Seneca. Effort and patience will achieve more than force and anxiety. What a powerful reminder. You see, when your effort comes from a place of fear, it becomes forceful. You act not because you trust, but because you're trying to control. And that energy? It blocks more than it builds. But when you take purposeful steps with patience, you unlock flow. You become a co-creator with life, rather than a controller. Of it, you no longer panic when results take time. You no longer crumble when things don't go according to plan. Instead, you trust that right action plus right energy, right outcome. Let me tell you about someone named Grace. Grace was a passionate entrepreneur. She had a heart full of vision and a mind bursting with ideas. But there was one problem. She was exhausted, working long hours, worrying constantly about the numbers, obsessing over growth, trying to force her business to take off. And yet the more she pushed, the less progress she felt. Until one day she had a realization. She was doing the right things, but with the wrong energy. She was acting from fear, not faith, from scarcity, not alignment. So she made a powerful shift. She started each day with intention. She asked herself, what action today is aligned with who I want to become? Then she did the work, with focus, with integrity. And then she let go. She stopped micromanaging the results. She stopped checking the numbers obsessively. And she allowed space for things to flow. And that's when the magic happened. Clients came in, collaborations opened up. Her energy felt lighter, and success felt natural, not forced. Because when Grace aligned her actions and let go of control, life began to meet her halfway. So how can you begin practicing aligned action and surrender? Here's how. 1. Take intentional steps. Let your actions be guided by your purpose, not your panic. Do the work, but make sure it's the right kind of work. 2. Release the need for immediate results. Trust that the seeds you're planting today are growing, even if you don't see the fruit yet. Let go of the need to force their blooming. 3. Practice patience with presence. Don't sit and wait with anxiety. Live your life, keep showing up, and let the outcome unfold in its own divine timing. At the end of the day, true progress comes from a sacred balance, effort and surrender, purpose and patience. When you align your steps with your soul and let go of how the path should look, you create space for miracles. Take the step, then release the outcome, and watch how life responds in ways more beautiful than you ever imagined. When Grace stopped pushing and started trusting, everything began to change. She wasn't doing less, but she was doing it with greater clarity, deeper intention, and far less fear. And that shift made all the difference. For so long she had been chasing every opportunity, constantly anxious about whether she was making it, obsessing over timelines, results, and what others were achieving. But the harder she pushed, the more burned out she became, and the further her goals seemed to drift, until one day her mentor said something that struck a chord. Take the aligned action you know is right, then let go of the outcome. Trust that what's meant for you will come. At first it felt unnatural. Wasn't letting go the same as giving up? But as Grace began to apply that wisdom, something shifted. She focused on doing the work that aligned with her values, poured her energy into projects that felt meaningful, and stopped micromanaging the when and how of success. And what happened? Within a few months, things started to fall into place. Opportunities appeared without being chased. Doors opened without being forced. She finally understood. The key wasn't in pushing harder, but in trusting deeper. So how do you take aligned action and let go? Here are 3 grounded steps. 1. Focus on what you can control. You can't predict the outcome, but you can choose to act with integrity, intention, and clarity every single day. Make your next move based on your values, not your fears. 2. Practice patience. We live in a culture obsessed with speed, but meaningful results take time. Just like a seed needs time to grow roots before it breaks through the surface, your efforts are working quietly beneath the surface. 3. Release the need to control everything. You don't have to know when it will happen. You don't have to force it into being. What's meant for you is already finding its way. And when you're aligned, you'll recognize it when it arrives. Because at the end of the day, effort plus patience is bigger than force plus anxiety. When you show up, do the work that feels true and surrender the rest. You open the door for life to support you in ways you never imagined. Take aligned action and let go of the rest. Move with purpose. Then step aside and trust. You'll be amazed at how effortlessly things begin to unfold when you stop chasing and start allowing. If this message spoke to you, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. It helps this channel reach more people like you, people ready to live with clarity, courage, and trust. Thank you for being here. Let's keep walking this journey together. So here's the truth we've uncovered together. You don't need to chase life. You don't have to control every outcome. You're not behind. You're not missing anything. You simply need to align with who you truly are. Act with intention, live with presence, and trust the process. Because when you shift your energy from scarcity to abundance, from force to flow, from anxiety to faith, you unlock a life that responds to your inner peace, not your outer pressure. And maybe, just maybe, that's what real success feels like. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this message resonated with you, don't let it fade. Let it take root. Let it guide your next step. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share. What's one aligned action you're choosing to take today? And if you found value in this video, hit that like button. It helps this message reach more souls who need it. Subscribe to the channel Stoic Havenway for more insights, reflections, and tools to help you live with clarity, calm, and quiet strength in a noisy world. Until next time, stay grounded, stay inspired, and trust your path.